If you do one thing today, take my advice and stop using streamers as your source of where you get your like political drive. It's just fucking radicalizing. You're just getting radicalized. If you can look at Susan Collins and legitimately say, like, oh yeah, no, we should continue to have her. And I'm gonna use this as a chip to bash progressives for daring to back the alternative. If that is legitimately your response to that, you've been on Twitch too long. Get off Twitch. One of the things that I've been rewatching as a comfort show is Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. It came up in an interesting way, okay? Because everybody has been talking about the latest going-ons with Graham Platner and how his opponent, how she's dropped out of the race, and so now it's just Graham Platner. And so everybody has been talking about Graham Platner and, you know, the Nazi allegations, the tattoo stuff has come back up, his comments have come back up, his history has come back up, and all of that shit. And so everyone's talking now about, do we vote for Platner, you know? And there's all this like, oh yeah, blue no matter who, all that shit is coming back up, right? And before this devolves into another round of libs versus lefties, I thought it'd be a very good opportunity to take a look at who he's actually running against, okay? And just when mentioning this person's name, it was actually surprising to me how many people don't really know who Susan Collins is. Or they've heard the name Susan Collins. They don't really know like what she's done or who she is really. I thought it'd be a good idea to talk about Susan Collins, okay? Because if anybody in our political like spectrum or politics scene currently is a homunculus from Full Metal Alchemist, it has to be Susan Collins, okay? This is my thesis statement for this, all right? She's literally, in my mind, that is what she is. She's a homunculus, okay? She is evil, and I hate her, and I want her out. And obviously, I can't just say that, and not kind of talk about why. So that's what we're gonna do today. When I was doing research for my USPS video, her name came up, and it was very fucking relevant, right? For the non-anime watchers, explain homunculus in this context. Yes, I'll give you a slight overview, but then I'll also establish it later. The homunculi, at least in the show, what they are characterized by are their personalities. So in the show, there are the 7 homunculi fashioned after the 7 deadly sins. You know, you have lust, greed, sloth, and so on. And they're all in service to the one who created them, the homunculi that created them, whose name is Father in the show. And the entire purpose that this father uses the homunculi for is that he essentially wants to turn himself into God, blah, 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 and he uses them to those ends. He essentially uses the homunculi to shape the country as it's created. As the creation of the country is occurring, this is when he enters the picture, and like, so he essentially has like a centuries-long crusade, like that he uses these homunculi for. And in a way, when you look at Susan Collins, you can kind of see that she has changed the political landscape of this country over the long time that she has been in office. This is her, by the way. She is the senator from Maine. She is, I believe, real quick, let's take a quick peek. I think she's 73 years old. She was first elected to the Senate in 1996, by the way. Okay, so that's how long she's been in office. It's been 30 years, right? She is the, I believe, she's the only senator who has voted on 100% of bills. Like, she has been there for every vote. There you go. We're gonna use AI overview, okay? Historic 100% attendance record. And she's cast over 9,750 votes. And so, in the sense that she does her job, like, she is someone who does her job. You cannot say that. You cannot say that this chick. You can say a lot of things about her. You can't say that she doesn't do her job, right? So again, we're gonna go down, and she's also, this is the other thing too. This might be confusing to people, right? Because she's also one of like 2 senators who very, very frequently votes with the Democrats. Like, if you look at what she is doing at any given time, right? Like, a lot of the times she actually, I believe it's yeah, here we go, that she votes with her party 59% of the time. Okay, at least between 1997 and 2016. And then more recently, it's been, 99% of the time with the GOP. But just historically speaking, when you look at her voting record, she's just as likely to vote with the Democrats as against them, right? However, and this is the problem, if you listen to people who say that, who use that as an excuse to kind of slide people in, or say like, oh yeah, just look at how often they're voting for Democrats. Sure, you can use it as a metric, right? I have no problem with that, but I think it would behoove people to know a little bit about what they're saying yes to and what they're saying no to. Because, and this is why I think she's a homunculus. Some of the things that she has voted on or voted yes on is really fucking bad, number one. Number two, it says something about you if you are being used as the bargaining chip, right? If it's you and Murkowski who take turns pretending to be the moderate, pretending to be reasonable, like, don't get me wrong, I'd like people to be reasonable. But if what you're ultimately promising is a lie, or if what you're doing is running the country into the ground, then I'd like you to be a little more upfront with what you actually want, right? Like, I don't want this pretend bullshit, Say what you want, say it with your chest. That's my position, okay? But again, let's go through this, okay? So, and again, we're gonna go through this, and we're gonna see good things too. So keep in mind that is what we are gonna see. All right. So, Donald Trump. She didn't actually vote for Donald Trump, right? Like, she didn't vote for Donald Trump over in 2016. And she did not vote for him in 2024. That's something I learned when researching for this segment. So that was kind of cool. That's good. She fired James Comey. She supported his decision to fire James Comey. All right, cool. She opposed the ban, the Muslim immigration ban, right? Well, that's kind of cool. Let's see. She was open to subpoena President Trump's tax returns. She was open to hearings on Michael Flynn's Russia, the Russia investigation. Here we go. She supported Robert Mueller. Blah 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 blah. Let's scroll down just a little bit, okay? So, and this is it, yeah. Okay. So, impeachment inquiry, okay? This is a good one, okay? She made several comments relating to the impeachment inquiry against Donald Trump. She emphasized multiple times it'd be inappropriate for her to come to any conclusions because she is a juror. And she presented herself as being reasonable, which is totally fine. And then at the end, right? And here we go. Should the articles of impeachment come to the Senate, and right now I'm going to guess that they will, I will be acting as a juror as I did in the Clinton impeachment trial. Okay? And then at the end, she voted with her party to not impeach him, right? She does this, right? Like, she'll do these little things that make it seem like she's being reasonable. Was the first Republican to break from the GOP, voting with Democrats on a motion to increase the time allotted for responses. But she voted with her party, right? How did she vote on Clinton? Let's take a look. Voted to acquit. Oh, I guess, hold on. That was maybe that was a sign. Here we go. She believed Clinton committed perjury, but deemed it was not grounds for removal from office. Okay. All right. We're gonna scroll down, okay? And there's some things that also matter more to me than maybe to some other people, but, we'll get there, okay? This is good. Collins was one of 11 Republican senators to vote to block President Trump's, to lift sanctions on Russian companies, right? She disagreed with the easing of the sanctions because I think it sends the wrong message to Russia. Okay? No, I will not defend my pro-Israel stance. Sorry. Here we go. After President Trump cut aid to Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador, cutting aid may have the opposite effect and could possibly make the lives of these individuals even worse, and thus encourage more of them to flee the countries they are now leaving. So I'd actually like to see the president consider a different approach, an opposite approach. This is one of the, this is, I think, sort of emblematic of, the way that she deals with Trump. It's very, I am concerned, but no, teeth to it. You know what I mean? So, problem number one. Susan Collins voted to confirm Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, okay? That's number one. My God. What a disastrous fucking vote, dude. The justice was confirmed 50-48. Without the crucial vote cast by Collins, would have needed a tie-breaking vote by Vice President Pence. This is her utility. She is the person who is used both as a, here's how reasonable we can be, but also, here's how we can fucking break you by being the crucial vote in favor of just more and more incremental, degradations of your fucking freedoms, okay? Motherfucking Judge Boofer himself, right? At the time, Senator Collins gave a floor speech explaining why she voted for the justice's confirmations, despite warning from those opposing that he would strike down Roe versus Wade, okay? because the thing is, she is a pro-choice Republican, right? Like, she is pro-choice, but she has presented herself as, you know, even though she is pro-choice, right? She supports, you know, abortions in cases of emergencies, right? Or where it, you know, is medically necessary, things like that, right? She does support that. However, and this is something that is not in here, right? This is something that's not in this Wikipedia article, and this is why sometimes this can be a little, you know, Wikipedia is good, but sometimes you need to do a little digging, right? Because it's not just that she confirmed Brett Kavanaugh. She went ahead and voted in, like, at least 3 judges that I know of that were pro-life, right? For lifetime appointments, right? It was, here, we're just gonna read a little bit of this, okay? Susan Collins today ignored pleas and concerns from more than 20 Maine-based organizations and voted to confirm Joshua Dunlap to a lifetime appointment in the U.S. First Circuit Court of Appeals. Dunlap has had a long and public record of opposing reproductive freedom, marriage equality, economic and climate justice, separation of church and state, and the will of Maine voters. Okay, she's also done Joshua Devine, who is a self-proclaimed zealot for the anti-abortion movement, for another lifetime appointment, right? Anti-abortion advocate Jennifer Mascott, who celebrated the overturning of Roe versus, oh god, my fucking accent, Roe versus Wade, Jesus Christ. And who has filed amicus briefs cases that seek to restrict access to medication abortion. In May 2022, Politico ran an exclusive article of the confirmed legitimate leaked opinion of the court, where it was discovered Brett Kavanaugh had voted to overturn Roe versus Wade. After the leaked opinion became public, Senator Collins voted against a bill to codify it into federal law. Okay, so there you go. That shows you just who she is. Okay, she did not give a shit if Roe was struck down, right? This is the thing. It's slimy to me that she will vote for certain things that seem to mitigate or seem to try to be aimed to mitigate the situation, but like, yeah, no, she's striking it down. She wants to strike it down. You are right, McPherson. She wants to strike it down, but she throws little bones to people, you know? These are the bones that would, you know, appeal to people like Wick, you know? Sorry, Wick, but like, this is the kind of thing where if you look at just like the numbers, if you come through and you say, oh yeah, so she did that, she was responsible for the striking down of Roe. She's responsible. She's responsible for Brett Kavanaugh and, in effect, for everything that Brett Kavanaugh has done. Everything. Okay? Including the boofing. Let's see here. Collins would again join Senator Lisa Murkowski to break party lines on a vote. This time against a bill to allowing states to defund Planned Parenthood. See, this is the kind of bone that she and Lisa Murkowski will throw, right? Lisa Murkowski, by the way, is the other senator who does exactly this. But we're not talking about her today. Not really. And, here we go. As in that case, Vice President Pence was forced to break a 50-50 tie in favor of the bill. So, there you go. Okay? Blah, 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 blah. She's opposed to laws. She announced that she is opposed to laws that ban abortions even in cases of rape or incest. specifically stating that such laws are against national Supreme Court rulings. However, when you strike Roe versus Wade down, that is what you are inviting, right? Like, that's what happens, is that you will have states. You're giving it back to the states, as they said, right? So you are allowing that. This is lip service to me, right? Hate crimes, co-sponsored. Okay, and that's the other thing about Collins as well. Okay, and this is something, especially if you're doing digging on Collins on your own, don't just look at how she votes. Look at the bills that she's co-sponsored on as well, because some of these are good. Some of these are good, right? Some of these, like this one, I remember is good. Co-sponsored a resolution condemning hate crimes related to ethnicity, religion, and race. That's good. I have no issue with that. LGBT issues, right? She, let's see here, voted against an amendment, which was an amendment intended to ban same-sex marriage. That's all right. Voted for the Don't Ask, Don't Tell repeal. That's good as well. Kirsten Gillibrand introduced a bipartisan amendment to protect transgender service members from President Trump's plan to ban them from the military. She and Gillibrand reintroduced the legislation in 2019. She said, if individuals are willing to put on the uniform of our country and risk their lives for our freedoms, then we should be expressing our gratitude to them, not trying to kick them out of the military. That's great. You know, I'm fine. I'm cool with that. Confirmed Pete Buttigieg as a Secretary of Transportation. That's neat. Yes, skip past the good ones. No. These are good. I like these, okay? Genuinely speaking, I like these. It's just that, and we'll see, okay? It's because to me, it is not about the number of things, right? It's what she does, what she is doing. That is, to me, that makes more. Brett Kavanaugh is like a huge thing. Like, so far, to me, everything that we've read so far has more or less been offset by that Brett Kavanaugh confirmation, you know? Aha, here we go. US Postal Service, okay? This is a pet issue for me, and I'll tell you why. Quite apart from the fact that I want to make a video on it, right? That kind of goes into this in way more detail. But what she did is she was a co-sponsor of the Postal Accountability and Enhancement Act. Okay? And what this act did was it basically took the USPS and it said, by the way, up until that point, had been running at a surplus. They were generating income, okay? They were actually quite profitable. And what she did was she introduced this act, which became into law, okay? Where it tasked the USPS to pre-fund the health and retirement benefits of all of their employees. Not fund as you go, as many agencies do, pre-fund for a certain number of years. And what this did was it, like, pretty immediately put the USPS from being in a surplus to being in massive amounts of deficit. Fucking massive amounts of deficits. And with the way that the USPS is limited in how they can generate income, they are very limited on how they can generate income by design, but because of that way that they are limited, they just could not. They cannot come up. They could not keep up with it, okay? There is a reason why Trump, like, if y'all remember like all this stuff about Ajit Pai, if y'all remember all this stuff about like Donald Trump like blasting the USPS in his first term, that was because of this. That was because the fallout from this was finally catching up, right? To where then Trump comes in and says, They're not profitable. They're not profitable. They need to go. We should just take them out. They're losing us millions and millions and millions of dollars, right? And it's true that they want privatization. It doesn't start with Trump. That's what I think people need to understand. None of this shit starts with Trump. It starts with people like Susan Collins. Okay? It starts with people like her. And this is again, like, look at how small of a section this is, right? I'm not accusing Wikipedia of being, like, partisan in any way, but I just told you all that stuff, right? And we can probably, like, now you have the context for why this is bad, right? But you could probably, we could go through everything that we've gone through so far and, like, investigate and see where it came from. Why did they do the things they did at the time? And you can get bogged down if you'd like, right? But you see what I mean by why it's an issue if you just look at the number of the votes she does, right? That's why it's important to actually consider the weight of the things that she actually does, because this was a Libertarian Party goal, was to destroy the USPS, right? And yes, you're right, Thais. Like, the idea of the USPS was formed so that there would be an independent agency that delivers mail, that is bound to deliver mail to everybody in the US, so that it wouldn't be like subject to essentially the king's wishes. That's the idea of the USPS. So to deliberately cut the USPS in a way where they were essentially given an impossible task. They're given an impossible task, and of course they fucking failed. I'm sure you know many people. I'm sure you know any amount of old people who just shit on the USPS and how bad it is and how underfunded it is, how their mail carrier is out to get them. I've literally heard it all, okay? I've heard all of that. And it's still there. It's still there doing its job, even though it has had so many cuts and so many attempts to kill it, okay? You're right. Like, they want the mail to be privatized, but that's just not gonna happen. Like, if we do not have a government agency that provides mail, you're not going to have mail in some places. That's just it, right? Here's another one, okay? Yeah, of course, there's Brett Kavanaugh, but then she also voted for Alito and Roberts, okay? As well as Kagan and Sotomayor. So, you know what? In that sense, it's like, on one hand, it's like, okay, yes, Kagan and Sotomayor. Alito and Roberts. Dude. She's literally the deep state character the right wing would have you believe. I think it's weird because I hate this woman. I hate this woman. I almost hate her more because she pretends to be reasonable, you know? Because of the damage that Roberts has done. Because of the damage that Alito has done. Because of the damage that Kavanaugh has done. She is responsible for these people. Absolutely. There's a specific reason why I'm not going to touch, like, even though I mentioned him at the start of this segment, I'm not going to touch Platner at all. Other people can talk about Platner. I'm not going to talk about Platner. I want to talk about Susan Collins, because way more so than any progressive you know, Susan Collins has been the person who has dictated what your life is like right now. Way more than any of these fucking progressives put together. And I know I want her out. I don't care. Well, I care how. Okay? Obviously. Ideally, in a legal way, with no issues whatsoever. I hope she has a very long, good life and an excellent retirement, and she dies at a ripe old age of 100 or whatever. I hope she is able to play with Legos until her dying day, okay? There you go. I just think that we need to we need to focus on people who actually have an impact in our lives, right? There we go. And again, good things and bad things, right? After President Obama nominated Merrick Garland to the Supreme Court, Collins publicly opposed the Senate Republicans' leadership's decisions to refuse to consider the nomination, urged her Republican colleagues to follow regular orders and give Garland a confirmation hearing, which, you know, I don't think that didn't happen, right? Voted for the confirmation of President Trump's nomination of John K. Bush for Circuit Judge of the United States Court of Appeals for the Sixth Courts. During his confirmation hearings, it was disclosed that he had authored pseudonymous blog posts in which he disparaged gay rights, compared abortion to slavery, classy, linked to articles on right-wing conspiracy theory websites. Supported an FBI investigation into sexual assault allegations made against Trump's second Supreme Court nominee, Brett Kavanaugh. She later announced her decision to vote in favor of his confirmation, stating that the presumption of innocence should be retained regarding Kavanaugh's sexual assault allegations, and she did not believe he would overturn Roe versus Wade. Her vote sparked opposition, blah, 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 blah. Collins stated that she felt vindication in December 2018 when Kavanaugh voted with the court's liberal justices to decline to hear 2 cases against Planned Parenthood. Yeah, she didn't believe it. She literally didn't believe it, right? She just literally shut her eyes and said, hey, I was vindicated. He let Planned Parenthood be. Kavanaugh, however, in 2019, Kavanaugh voted to uphold a Louisiana abortion law, which effectively shuttered most of the state's abortion clinics. The law was blocked by the court's majority. And then in 2022 was when the opinion was leaked where he voted to overturn it. Susan Collins. Subsequent to the release of this leaked opinion, Susan Collins said, "If this leaked draft opinion is a final decision and this reporting is accurate, it would be completely inconsistent with what Justice Gorsuch and Justice Kavanaugh said in their hearings and in my meetings in my office." After the leaked opinion became public, Senator Collins voted against a bill to codify Roe into federal law. So, that's lovely. That's great. She did vote against confirming Amy Coney Barrett. I always say Comey. Right? But here we go. Look at it. Like, this is classic. This is classic Collins, right? And classic Collins and Murkowski, right? The dream team. Collins was of 2 Republican senators, the other being Lisa Murkowski, to vote against a motion which would move forward with a vote to confirm Judge Amy Coney Barrett. Collins in the final vote had intended to vote no. However, Murkowski announced she would vote yes. This is what they do. They take turns doing the yes and no, right? She cited the Merrick Garland Supreme Court nomination and the standard set during that nomination, which was basically, no, you cannot nominate a judge as you're going out, whatever the fuck that means. And noted that this nomination was being voted on much closer to the election, right? And then she did vote no against her confirmation. But you see, like, she and Murkowski will do this, where they take turns being the bad guy, you know? As like the bad guy to the Republicans or the bad guy to the Democrats, right? As of August 2021, she had voted for all of Joe Biden's judicial nominations. Great. Oh, that's neat. Voted with the Democratic caucus to confirm Beth Robinson, the first openly lesbian to be confirmed in the federal circuit courts. Nice. Okay. Vote with Democrats to advance the nomination of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. Nice. All right. And she voted to confirm her to the Supreme Court. She voted against the McCain-Kennedy proposal, which would have given amnesty to undocumented immigrants. Voted against the DREAM Act. However, in 2013, she voted for a comprehensive immigration bill that included border security and a pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants. She opposed his decision through... she opposed President Obama's decision to achieve immigration reform with a plan that gave deportation relief to as many as 5 million undocumented immigrants. I'm not surprised by that. That seems on party lines, even though I don't like it. Right? Here's the one that I want to look at, okay? Because this is the thing that I think is important. Or at least this is another one that's important to me, right? She voted for the 2017 Republican tax plan. And if y'all don't remember, the 2017 Republican tax plan, this is like Paul Ryan's baby, right? This was a plan that was very specifically designed to take full effect and have the full effect be wreaked upon the class of people that they wanted it wreaked on, like the middle class and the working class, right? That full effect would take place by election year. So that in election, it was very specifically designed so that people would, over time, get less and less in their tax returns. This is the bill, right? This is the bill that people talk about quite a bit, right? Greatly reduce corporate taxes, reduce taxes for some individuals, but increase them for other individuals, and increase the deficit, right? So in the election year, that's when people felt it the most. And then they were just able to blame it on Democrats. That was their specific plan, and that's what she voted for, right? This is the other part that it did. And I think we will actually skip down to that healthcare bit to talk about that specifically before we come back up, okay? She voted in favor of a bill to begin the process of repealing the ACA, Obamacare, right? Collins was the only Republican to vote for a defeated amendment that would have prevented the Senate from adopting legislation cutting Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. She could not support the ACA. This is the thing, right? She said, okay, I don't like the ACA, but you know what? I'm not going to support this American Health Care Act, which is like the House Republicans' proposed replacement for the ACA. Right? She said, I'm against repealing the Affordable Care Act without a replacement proposal. Right? And she voted in favor, of not repealing the ACA without a suitable replacement. Right? Blah, 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 blah. Let's scroll down just a bit. She voted for a tax bill. This is the tax bill, by the way. The same tax bill that repealed the Affordable Care Act's individual mandate, which meant that everybody had to have insurance or you would be fined or whatever. This is one of the things, by the way, that undercut the ACA, if y'all don't know that. This is why the ACA is not as good as it could be. This is another thing that's basically designed to cut it, make it less effective, and then later they can say, it's not effective, it needs to go. It's the same fucking thing. And the best part is how this happened, right? Just listen to this shit. Collins made a deal with Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, trading her opposition to repealing the Affordable Care Act's individual mandate provision for legislation that would financially stabilize the remaining health insurance program. But after Collins voted for the tax bill, McConnell was like, fuck you. He never brought up the thing that he promised her, he never brought it up for a vote. Like, imagine looking at Mitch McConnell and trusting him. Just imagine saying, yeah, sure, I'll give up that support or that opposition. Like, I'll give that up for a promise. That's not, in my opinion, dissimilar to what Dems did during the shutdown in October last year, right? I'm gonna give this up, and in exchange, we're gonna bring something up to a vote. Where's the vote? What do you mean? What have you actually accomplished here, right? Like, and again, keep in mind that voting for this tax bill is already an issue in and of itself. Like, this is like a very bad bill, okay? Like, this hurt a lot of people. Yeah, let me scroll through very quickly, because there's obviously more. There's so much more. She has done so fucking much, you know? It would take hours, I think, to go through all of this. And again, I'm not that smart, okay? So let's get back to what you were saying earlier, okay? Here, let me bring this up. It may be obvious, but it would help me jump fully on board. Is her sin being lied to or hiding her power level? For example, you said earlier that her SE nominations were asked about Roe versus Wade, and they said it was decided law. That would be a lie on their part and not so much on her. Again, to me, I think I do take a little bit of Akriel's position on this, in the sense that you can look at it from a standpoint of what was the effect that it had, right? Because if you look at what the effect was, then you can say that's bad in and of itself. This is your job as a senator to know that people are going to lie. It's your job as a senator, especially for one who is so involved like she is. Surely she knows the value. Surely she knows the weight behind a Supreme Court nomination. Surely she knows what it means to vote to appoint judges for life. For life, right? Surely she knows what this means. So whether or not she was lied to or whether she was too stupid, it is just true that the people who suffer at the end of the day are her constituents and us, right? And so again, if she's smart, I'm not saying she's not smart, right? Because I think you can absolutely, I mean, sure, if you want to call her stupid, that's fine. I'm not gonna personally stop you. I don't think she's stupid. I think she knows what she's doing. If you want, I guess, personally, I think it is a power level thing. I don't think that it's a coincidence that, ever since Trump came along, her votes have decidedly been less bipartisan, And to me, it's not about it's to me, I want her gone because of the continuing damage that her actions have done on us. Right? I think I would like her to stop damaging my democracy. I don't think that you can really look at Mitch McConnell and say he was a trustworthy person, And I do understand what you're saying, Ties, like ignorance can be educated. The problem is I don't think we have the bandwidth to, like, to essentially tolerate that. Like, it's one thing when you're talking to a chatter, you know, it's one thing when you're talking to a person, you know, like your family member, your friend. Like, it's one thing when you are giving them grace, right? And I understand already that is a position that is already controversial for a lot of people, right? It's controversial even in my community. Like, we have had conversations like this all the time, right? You know how I stand on this. I would like to give people that space, right? This person is not a person who gets that space. She is a senator. This is her job. It's her job to look into these things. The fact that she's voting, the fact that she has a 100% attendance rate, by the way, means she knows what her actions, like, she knows how much her actions weigh. That's what it says to me. She is doing her job. You know what I mean? She's absolutely doing her job. So then the question becomes, what is her job? You know, who does she serve? And to me, this is also why the homunculus thing comes in, right? Because homunculi, at least in the show, like, they don't always know why they're doing the things that they're doing. In fact, like, I think more than one of them does things without knowing anything about why they're doing it. Literally, the guy that digs the tunnel, right? The guy that digs the fucking countrywide transmutation circle, who, without this guy's, like, his name's Sloth, and all he does, the only thing he basically does for the entirety of the show is dig a massive tunnel in a circle. Right? And he has no idea about why he does it, what it's for. He just knows he has to do it. Right? And to me, I understand what she is. She's a pawn that is used by the Republican Party. Absolutely. She's their heel. Very easy. To me, her role is kind of clear. That is what she's there for. They will shit on her and call her a rhino, but they rely on her. I don't know if you can. I don't know if it's appropriate to call her controlled opposition. I have a feeling that this is what she is she's controlled opposition. There's a small difference of me of power level hiding needs to be voted out. Ignorance can be fixed without that, but it can also be fixed by a yeet. One has more options, basically. I understand that. I think the problem is that at this point in time, we need everything that we can get in order to essentially take back what is ours. We have to take this back now. And I do not see her anytime soon turning a new leaf and starting to vote in the direction that we are going to need her to vote. So that is why I want her out. I don't want any more conservative Supreme Court justices. I don't want any more Supreme Court justices. If we have even one more, if one person has to leave for whatever reason, if we have even one, we are fucked, right? Just imagine, we're already fucked, okay? But at least right now, we're talking about how it's surprising that Amy is voting in ways that we wouldn't have expected. If we had another person on the Supreme Court that was a conservative, we would absolutely be fucked. Our children would be fucked, and our grandchildren would be fucked. Don't we need to pack the court? No, Noxie, what I'm saying is that if she continues to vote like she does, like if she continues to be in her position, right? And if another conservative judge comes along, like, she would absolutely vote for that Supreme Court justice. We know what her voting history looks like, even for people who are problematic, even for people who are supposedly against her values, right? Again, remember, going back to the abortion thing, right? She said she opposed abortion, and that was reflected in her voting record. Fine. But she said she didn't want it to be all-encompassing. She didn't want Planned Parenthood to be completely defunded. But what did she do in the end? She confirmed these people in the end. She absolutely overlooked Kavanaugh's history. She gave him a pass. And the damage that has done is so immense that just on that basis alone, I would say she needs to go. On just that basis ago, she needs to go, right? Fuck it. You know, like, as it relates to Platner, because I understand Platner is a can of worms, okay? Platner's a can of worms. Let me just put it that way, okay? But in my mind, I would take a John Fetterman over a Collins. It seems fucked that I have to say that, and I don't like it to be boiled down like that, because we all know that it's not going to be that easy. I don't want Collins. It feels gross to say. I don't want this. I don't want this bitch anymore. I don't want this pretend appeasement. She's done a lot of good work. It's true, right? It is true. But the bad that she has done has, in my mind, outweighed like so much of this stuff. And it's, again, some of these are for life, dog. So, okay, I want to move on to, like, essentially, like, the final part of this, okay? Because, again, this is it with her, it's hard. It's not easy. I'll agree. It is not easy to make the argument I'm making simply because of her record, right? Like, I remember when I was on Wix and I was talking about Henry Kuehler, and like immediately the argument was, well, who was he against? Oh, it's better to have him than to have a Republican in. Yeah, that's true. Absolutely. And I understand that in Collins' case, you can absolutely pull her record, look at her numbers, look at what she's voted for. I'm talking about looking beyond that and looking at what her role is. What she is there in the Senate to do. Who is she doing it for ultimately? And at the end of the day, if you pay all this lip service and at the end of the day you vote against your constituents' interest, no. That's it. That's done. I'm done. Of course, I'm going to look at the alternatives. My analysis is not going to stop with Collins. Of course, I will look at Platner, right? But to me, Collins is such a huge... She's one of the... In my opinion, maybe this is a hot take, she's one of the worst people in the Senate right now. And it's because she's reasonable. Because she seems reasonable. I was talking about this just like the other day, you know, in a chat, and this is where I got that idea, right? Like or at least like I'd just gotten the idea, like I just had the brainwave of like, oh man, you know what she is? She's a fucking homunculus, dude. You know what she is? She's like Envy. She's like what Envy is in his base form, you know? She's just straight up Envy, right? And I'll give credit to Sen, okay? Sen made me this after I told him that. Sen made this for me. which I think is fucking banger, okay? Like, I think this is absolutely this is absolutely going into the thumbnail, okay? Which I think is fucking tastic. But I went into a chat, which I'm not going to say who, and I've blurred out a lot of this because it's not relevant, okay? And I said, she's ancient and evil. She's basically a homunculus from Full Metal Alchemist. And some big brain chatter tells me, folks keep electing her in. And I hate discrimination, age or otherwise. Because let's face it, that's what it is. If you're for age discrimination, you're illiberal. And you're not in my party. It's that simple. And I understand this is a very silly person who doesn't really deserve like this doesn't really like deserve it, but I'll respond to it because I think that again, this is going to watch. This is absolutely 100% going to be used as the next liberal lefty thing. Oh, lefties didn't want to vote blue no matter who, but they want us to do blue no matter who. Now they're gonna come and rub it in our faces. That's the next thing. I've not watched any of the talk about this, but I'm telling you right now, this is probably what's going to happen next. And the funny thing is that folks keep electing her in. Brother, you know who like my senator is, right? It's like Lindsey Graham, right? You know, I know about people re-electing dumb shit, absolute toxic, like complete wastes of space, like Lindsey Graham, okay? South Carolina has a problem. They are not capable of voting for anybody with a D next to their name. They will vote Lindsey Graham if it literally kills them. The only reason, by the way, that Lindsey Graham has even a slight shot of losing is because he finally had the nerve to say that he was going to go back to South Carolina and ask them to send their sons and daughters to go and fight for Israel. That is the only reason. That was apparently one of the last straws for a lot of Republicans in South Carolina. This is how bad it has gotten for somebody to make a brazen statement like that, right? And so my thing is, folks keep electing her in is not a statement of how good of a senator she is. Folks keep electing her in doesn't tell me anything about why they keep electing her in. Folks keep electing her in could literally mean every last person in Maine is fucking retarded. And this, I hate discrimination, age or otherwise, because let's face it, that's what it is. If you're for age discrimination, you're a liberal. Brother, it is the most liberal thing to discriminate based on age. You absolute moron. You fucking idiot. What the fuck do you mean? What does that mean? You're not in my party. It's that simple. Like, I'm not, like, you know, the thing is like, yeah, don't get rid of Trump. That's ageist. People keep voting him in. What the actual fuck, brother? We have an age limit for who can even run for president. What are you talking about? Huh? And the like, and you know, again, I have a little bit more to it, but it's not as funny. It's not as funny as that one line is. That one line got me, right? Because I was like, is this person talking to me? You know? I said, I don't know if you're talking to me, but I hate her because she's been fucking up our democracy for 30 plus years. And then basically the streamer asked, like, oh, is that true? And they said, she's not. It's a partisan thing. So it's a partisan thing. It's a partisan thing to have an issue with a person who's literally brought us the fucking state of our Supreme Court that we have right now. The fact that ACA is not a better force in our lives. The fucking 2017 tax bill. All of the shit that we saw that she voted against. Like, excuse me? I am done playing nice with people who pretend to like, honestly, if I'm gonna be honest with you, this to me, like what this screams is, I don't know who Susan Collins is, but the fact that you're hating on her means that I should vote or I should defend her. And I'm just gonna bring up the fact that I said that she's ancient and evil to make some bullshit point that I don't believe about age discrimination. And like, that's what it tells me, you know? And that's like what it also tells, and I understand that's more like, you know, that's like, it's just petty. It's like, really, and look, I'll say this is not Hutch's chat. It's not Hutch's chat and it's not Wick's chat. Right, I'm not gonna say whose chat it is. What I will say is that and this is what I don't like, okay? If you don't like anything that I've said today, if you don't like the way I've provided this analysis, which I'm gonna be honest, I've had enough stun locks in this segment alone that I don't know if I would like my analysis. But if you don't like my analysis, go do it your fucking self. Go do it yourself. Don't go and if you do one thing today, is take my advice and stop using streamers as your source of where you get your like political drive. It's just fucking radicalizing. You're just getting radicalized. If you can look at Susan Collins and legitimately say, like, oh yeah, no, we should continue to have her. And I'm gonna use this as a chip to bash progressives for daring to back the alternative. If that is legitimately your response to that, you've been on Twitch too long. Get off Twitch. Get the fuck off Twitch. Stop watching me. Stop watching your favorite go live in the real world for a while. How about that? Like, stop watching me. Why are you watching me right now? I'm nobody. I don't have a political science degree. Stop getting your political drive from people online. Go and do some fucking research before you open your fucking mouth. My God. It's one thing to want to learn. It's one thing to want to be fair. It's one thing to want to give somebody grace. Lord knows I give too much grace to people. Like, truly, I do. But I hate this shit, bro. This is the most... This is the most, like, this is some wild shit, dude. Yeah, tell us who to vote for. And look, I would like it to be where we end the segment talking about Susan Collins, right? But at the end of the day, I feel like I do have to say, like, go and do some research. Stop trying to narrativize this into something that, like, is not gonna benefit you. Like, you know? Like, the sad thing is that, like, I would absolutely love to give people like this grace. And considering who this is, it annoys and upsets me that this is where we are, right? Where I'm mixing, like, a personal Fifi's thing with, like, Susan fucking Collins. But I think it just has to be said, okay? Just go do your fucking research, okay? Don't take my word for it. If you come, like, I can 100%, because again, I can 100% see why any person could look at Platner and say, nope, not for me. I completely understand that. I'm not going to argue with anybody on that. Of course, I've been talking about it. I've been learning about it. But I'm not going to tell you what to do. What I am going to tell you to do, or what I'm going to tell you, is that how I feel about this bitch right here. So yeah, that's more or less it. She's a fucking homunculus. Do what you will with that information. Republicans tearing our nations to pieces, and Beans doesn't hit us with the do your own research. Look, I'll say this, okay? For me, the thing that I would like to do, because this is the thing, right? We know people are not going to do research. We know that voters in Maine are just going to go with their gut. They're going to see Susan Collins' history. It's why she's been in the Senate for as long as she has. Okay? There's absolutely work that she's done to keep herself in that position, right? So yes, of course, any person who goes up against her will have to be a lot. Or they have to be like they have to have a huge drive behind them. So, like, I 100% understand the desire to make sure that that challenger is the best we can be, you know? Like, I get that, right? But one thing that I like, it is the narrative thing that I don't like, right? That's why I'm not a fan. That's why I call it out. And especially, and this is the last thing I'll say on this, because I like to think of myself as some place where we can have those conversations, right? I get that I'm not perfect. I'm not really that all-encompassing space. Of course, there's a certain percentage of, you know, libs and lefties and conservatives even, like, in my space. I get that, right? I'm not going to deny it. I'm not him, right? But my thing is, if we start, like, if I say, hey, I'm trying to do a thing here, I'm trying to do a nuanced thing, and I get swept up in your silly little, like, dramatic little, like, pretend games online, I'm not here for that. Like, get the fuck out. Like, go keep getting radicalized, keep seething about, like, Hassan, keep seething about progressives. Don't actually look at Susan Collins. You know what? It's okay. Close your eyes. Don't look at what she's doing to you. Don't look. Just focus on Hassan. It's okay. Like, focus on how Twitch is turning into Tankie Central. Yeah, it's okay. Don't look at who's getting voted or who's getting confirmed. Don't look at her voting record. Like, how about we talk about the fact that Icebeans server is turning into a Tankie hug box? Don't look at it. It's okay. You don't have to worry about it. And like, I don't think I think I would humbly submit that my analysis of Susan Collins, even though I hate her, would disqualify me from like whatever this narrative is that people are building about how like John Fetterman was the fault of progressives and now look at where we are. Like, I would like to submit that I've showed enough nuance that wouldn't be applied to me, but it would, and it will, and I fully expect that, and I'm ready for it in the sense that I know it's just gonna come from people who ultimately I'm going to not take these people's opinions into account. That's kind of it, you know? I have better things to do. Like advocate that you should not vote for Susan Collins. If you're in Maine, just think about it. Ay, ay, ay. And yeah, like we actually have been talking about Platner a lot in the Discord. And like I do actually want to look into like, you know, I will probably not do it on stream. But I do want to look into like specifically like, you know, his knowledge of the tattoo, you know, because I have heard conflicting things about that. Right? I just think that like the Nazi thing, right, is also, you know, you have to remember that it is absolutely being narrativized, and that's fine. It's natural, right? But you have to remember who you are up against. You have to remember. And if that isn't me literally embodying blue no matter who, then I don't know what else is. So miss me with that shit. Miss me with that fucking shit. That's my thing on Susan Collins. If you like that, like and subscribe so that I can do more content like this.